Every child knows this game where one person closes their eyes and counts while the others hide. When the counting stops, the search begins. It seems innocent enough, just another game passed down through generations. But hide and seek is not what you think it is. This game predates civilization itself, and what it's really teaching children is how to survive being hunted. Once you understand the true origins of hide and seek, you'll realize that every time a child crouches in darkness, holding their breath while footsteps approach, they're rehearsing something humanity needed to survive for hundreds of thousands of years. The game never disappeared because the fear it simulates never went away. Hide and seek exists in every human culture that has ever been studied, every single one. From the Amazon rainforest to the Arctic Circle, from isolated Pacific islands to the deserts of Africa, children play some version of this game. That kind of universal distribution doesn't happen by accident. It happens because the game served a critical evolutionary purpose. Unlike other childhood games that teach specific skills like catching or throwing, hide and seek teaches something far more fundamental. It teaches you how to make yourself invisible when a predator is searching for you. Think about what the game actually trains you to do. When you hide, you're not just finding a spot and waiting, you're learning to control your body's natural panic response. Your heart is racing, your breathing wants to quicken, every instinct screams at you to move, to run, to do something. But hiding successfully requires the opposite. It requires absolute stillness. It requires you to slow your breathing, to suppress a cough or a sneeze, to ignore the discomfort of cramped muscles and awkward positions. You're literally training yourself to override your body's fear response. This is the same technique prey animals use when a predator approaches. A deer freezes in the undergrowth, a rabbit becomes a statue. Movement attracts attention, so the survival strategy is complete immobility, even when terror is flooding your system. For early humans, this skill was essential. Children who could hide effectively, who could remain silent and still when danger approached, were the ones who survived long enough to have children of their own. Those who couldn't were removed from the gene pool. The evidence of this goes deeper than just observation. Watch how children naturally play the game, even without being taught specific strategies. They instinctively seek enclosed spaces, dark corners, places where they can make themselves small. They know without being told that stillness is more important than the perfect hiding spot. A child behind a couch who stays frozen will outlast a child in a closet who can't stop fidgeting. This knowledge isn't learned, it's embedded. It's the same instinct that made our ancestors' survival possible in a world filled with predators far more powerful than they were. For tens of thousands of years, being detected meant death. Picture a family group huddled in a cave system in what is now France. 40,000 years ago, a cave lion has picked up their scent and is prowling the entrance. The adults freeze, weapons ready, but they know a direct confrontation likely means death for several of them. The children, some as young as 4 or 5 years old, press themselves into the deepest shadows of the cave. They've learned not to whimper, not to call out for comfort, not to move even though every muscle in their small bodies is screaming with tension. One child, let's call her what her people might have called her if we knew their language, understands, without being told, that her survival depends on becoming invisible. Her breathing slows, her body goes utterly still. She watches the entrance where the lion's shadow moves across firelight, and she waits. This happened countless times. Saber-toothed cats hunting human settlements, cave bears defending territory, dire wolves tracking scent trails. And it wasn't just animal predators. Rival human groups posed equal danger, perhaps even greater danger because they understood human behavior, could anticipate where people would hide, could hunt with intelligence and planning rather than just instinct. A child spotted by raiders might be taken, killed, enslaved. The consequences of detection were immediate and permanent. The children who survived these encounters were the ones who had learned a specific set of skills, how to hide in shadows and remain invisible even when danger passed within arm's reach, how to control their movements so completely that not even a shift in breathing would give away their position, how to remain silent under extreme stress, suppressing coughs, sneezes, the involuntary sounds that terrified children make. These weren't lessons taught in any formal way. There were no classes, no instruction manuals. Children learned by watching adults, by practicing among themselves, and most importantly, by experiencing real fear while hiding from real threats. The ones who couldn't learn these skills didn't survive to pass on their genes. Natural selection operated with brutal efficiency. A child who panicked and ran when they should have hidden was removed from the gene pool. A child who couldn't stay quiet while predators searched was discovered and killed. A child who fidgeted in their hiding spot, who couldn't tolerate the discomfort of cramped muscles and awkward positions, made noise that attracted attention. And somewhere in that genetic inheritance, carried forward through hundreds of generations, is the understanding that hiding is not a passive act. It's active resistance against detection. It's a survival skill disguised as play. The first written record of hide and seek comes from ancient Greece, but even then the game was already ancient. Julius Pollux, a 2nd century scholar and lexicographer, documented everyday Greek life in meticulous detail. Unlike other writers who focused on myths and grand historical events, Pollux recorded the ordinary, the games children played in the streets, the common phrases people used, the details of daily existence that seemed too mundane to preserve. And among those records, he described a game called Apodidras, which translates roughly to running away game. But the Greek version wasn't like the hide and seek we know today. It was rougher, more physical, closer to actual combat training than innocent play. Picture a group of children in ancient Athens, playing in the narrow streets between white stone buildings. The game begins, and immediately it's clear this isn't gentle. When a child is found, the seeker doesn't just tag them lightly. There's grabbing, wrestling, genuine physical struggle. The hider fights to break free and run to home base. The seeker uses real force to prevent escape. Smaller children learn quickly to hide better because they can't win a physical confrontation with older, stronger opponents. There was no concept of taking it easy on younger or smaller children. No modern understanding of fair play or gentle game rules. If you couldn't hide effectively, if you couldn't evade capture through speed or cleverness, you got caught. And the catching wasn't symbolic. It meant being grabbed, held, overpowered. The game continued without sympathy for the weak. This wasn't about fun in the way we understand childhood play today. It was preparation for a world where physical conflict was common, where being able to escape a grip or evade pursuit could save your life. Then there was a variant that reveals even more about what these games were really training children for. A version that makes modern hide and seek look gentle by comparison. It was called the Copper Fly game, and its name alone suggests something strange and disturbing. One child would be selected as the seeker, but unlike the modern game, this child would be blindfolded with cloth wrapped tightly around their eyes. They would be spun around several times until they were disoriented, their sense of direction completely scrambled. Then the other children would begin to strike this blindfolded seeker with papyrus whips. These weren't gentle taps. Historical accounts describe actual whips made from twisted papyrus reeds, flexible enough to sting sharply without breaking skin, but painful enough that the blindfolded child would feel each strike acutely. The child couldn't see where the blows were coming from, couldn't predict the next hit, couldn't protect themselves effectively. All they could do was listen to the footsteps, try to track movement by sound alone, and attempt to catch one of their attackers while being struck from multiple directions simultaneously. The blindfolded child had to push through that pain and confusion and disorientation and still complete an objective. They had to catch someone, had to make physical contact, and hold on long enough to identify their attacker, all while being hit and while unable to see. Think about what this trains you for. You're teaching a child to function while disoriented, while in pain, while unable to see threats coming. You're teaching them to track movement by sound alone, to react to attacks from unknown directions, to maintain focus and complete a task even when every sense is telling them they're under assault from all sides. This isn't a game. It's training for ambush warfare, for fighting in darkness, for surviving chaos and maintaining tactical thinking under conditions of extreme stress. The ancient Greeks understood something that modern society has largely forgotten: that children who could handle this kind of stress in play, who could develop these skills in controlled situations, would be far better equipped to handle actual combat, actual danger, actual life or death situations when they grew older. The empire that gave us philosophy and democracy also understood that survival required hard skills learned young. By the time Pollux wrote about these games, they were already considered traditional, already ancient. The Greeks were recording something that had been passed down for generations, maybe for thousands of years before they ever thought to write it down. And the game survived because it worked. It kept children engaged while teaching them skills they would desperately need. But hide and seek carries another layer of meaning that goes beyond simple survival training. Across cultures, across centuries, the person who seeks has never been neutral. In the game's mythology and folklore, the seeker transforms into something dangerous, something other. The children aren't hiding from a friend. They're hiding from a threat. In Japan, the seeker becomes the Oni, a demon from folklore. The Oni is violent, relentless, and inhuman. It doesn't play by normal rules. It doesn't show mercy. When Japanese children play hide and seek, the transformation is explicit. The seeker becomes the demon, and everyone else becomes potential victims. The game even has a specific name, Onigoko, which literally means demon tag. The child who is it wears the demon's role, and the fear is supposed to be real. In Europe, the seeker takes different forms, but the pattern remains the same. In some regions, the seeker becomes the wolf, the forest predator that haunted European imagination for centuries. In others, the seeker becomes Old Nick, a folk name for the devil himself. The game frames the pursuit as genuinely dangerous, because psychologically, the fear response makes the training more effective. If children treat the seeker as an actual threat, their hiding becomes more serious, more focused, more like real survival behavior. This transformation of the seeker into something monstrous appears in culture after culture without any evidence of direct transmission. It emerges independently because it serves a psychological purpose. The game works better when the fear feels real, when the child hiding in the closet genuinely doesn't want to be found, when the approaching footsteps trigger actual anxiety. That's when the training becomes effective. That's when the body learns to control fear. And then there's the concept of home base, the safe zone where you can't be caught. This isn't just a game mechanic, it's a cultural memory of actual sanctuary. Throughout history, certain places were recognized as safe, as protected, as beyond the reach of normal violence. Churches offered sanctuary. Temples were neutral ground. Certain legal boundaries meant you couldn't be pursued further. The idea of home base in hide and seek mirrors these real protections that existed in human society for thousands of years. The game becomes symbolic of something deeper. A soul fleeing from danger, racing towards salvation. The moment of being tagged represents capture, judgment, spiritual claiming. The moment of reaching home base untouched represents escape, redemption, survival. Children playing this game are acting out a narrative that appears in religion, in mythology, in folklore across the world. The pursued innocent seeking sanctuary from a relentless hunter. And the game teaches them that sanctuary exists, that safety is possible, but only if you can reach it before you're caught. But the game carries darker associations too, superstitions that reveal genuine fear about what happens when children hide too well. In Japan, there's a concept called kamikakushi, which translates to hidden by spirits. It refers to children who vanish, who disappear without explanation. And the cultural belief wasn't that these children got lost or ran away. The belief was that they were taken, claimed by spirits who found them in their hiding places and spirited them away to another realm. These weren't abstract stories. Japanese villages kept records of children who disappeared during games. A child would be playing with friends one moment and gone the next. Search parties would find no trace, no body, no evidence of kidnapping or animal attack. The child had simply vanished as if they had never existed. And the explanation that communities settled on wasn't natural, it was supernatural. The spirits had taken them. The timing matters enormously. Twilight, the hour the Japanese call omagatoki, is considered especially dangerous. It's neither day nor night, neither one thing nor another. The sun has set, but darkness hasn't fully claimed the sky. Shadows grow long and strange. Familiar places take on unfamiliar aspects. It's a liminal time when boundaries weaken, when the separation between the human world and the spirit world becomes thin and permeable. Parents would call their children inside before this hour, and the urgency in their voices was real. Children were warned never to play hide and seek during twilight, because hiding during this hour wasn't just risky, it was spiritually dangerous. A child who hid too well during omagatoki, who found the perfect dark corner and remained so still that they seemed to vanish from the human world, might actually cross over. They might slip through one of those weakened boundaries into the spirit realm, and once there, they might not be able to find their way back. Or worse, something else might come back in their place, wearing the child's face, but empty behind the eyes. This fear appears in European folklore as well, in the changeling myths that terrified parents across the continent for centuries. The belief was that fairies, creatures from the other world, could steal children and leave replacements behind. These replacement children looked identical to the originals, same face, same body, but something was fundamentally wrong with them. They were the fair folks' deceptions, fairy creatures glamoured to appear human, but lacking souls, lacking humanity, lacking whatever spark made a child recognisably themselves. And hiding spots, those dark enclosed spaces where children squeezed themselves during games, were considered thresholds between worlds. A wardrobe that reached into shadow, a space under the stairs where light never penetrated, a trunk in an attic. These weren't just convenient hiding places, they were dangerous portals. A child who crawled into the wrong hiding place during the wrong hour might cross over without even realizing it. They might find themselves in fairyland, in the other world, in a place that looked similar to home, but was fundamentally different. The fear wasn't simply that the child would disappear, though that was terrifying enough. The fear was that they would come back changed, that the body would return, but the soul would be different. Parents watched for signs with growing dread. Personality changes that couldn't be explained by ordinary development. Unusual silence from a child who had been chatty. Emotional absence, a blank quality in the eyes, a sense that the person you loved was gone, and something else was operating their body like a puppet. The child stopped laughing at familiar jokes. They didn't recognize favorite toys. They stared at family members with no recognition, no warmth, no connection. This belief was so powerful, so pervasive, that there are documented cases throughout European history of parents harming or even killing children they believed were changelings. These weren't monsters or evil people. They were terrified parents who believed their real child had been stolen. And this thing left behind wasn't their son or daughter. The tragedy is that many of these changeling children were probably just neurodivergent or mentally ill or traumatized, displaying behaviors that parents in that era couldn't understand except through a supernatural lens. But the strength of the belief, the fact that parents could be driven to such extremes, reveals how seriously these cultures took the danger of children crossing over, of hide and seek becoming something more than a game. And nearly every culture has the same rule. Stop playing when it gets dark. It's framed as a practical concern, as adults wanting children to come inside for dinner or bedtime. But the insistence is stronger than that. The rule has weight, has urgency, has genuine fear behind it. Because darkness doesn't change the game mechanically. Children can still hide in the dark, can still seek, can still play. But darkness changes who might be playing. It changes what might be seeking. The fear is that after sunset, when boundaries weaken, something else might join the game. And that something won't stop when a child is found. But beyond folklore and superstition, hide and seek operates on deep psychological levels that help explain why it has such a powerful hold on children across all cultures. When a child hides, they're doing something remarkable. They're voluntarily removing themselves from social existence. They become unseen, unheard, temporarily forgotten. In a very real sense, they're simulating death. This connects to children's earliest understanding of mortality and permanence. Very young children struggle with object permanence, with understanding that things continue to exist even when they can't see them. Peekaboo, one of the first games babies learn, teaches this concept. I cover my face and disappear. I uncover my face and I exist again. Hide and seek is the advanced version of this lesson. I hide and cease to exist in the seeker's world. I'm found and I return to existence. It's a voluntary cycle of disappearance and resurrection. For slightly older children, the game addresses separation anxiety in a controlled way. Young children fear abandonment, fear being left alone, fear the absence of caregivers. Hide and seek lets them practice this fear. They choose to separate. They choose to be alone in darkness. They choose to be temporarily abandoned. And then they're found again. They're reclaimed. They're brought back into the social world. The game teaches them that separation isn't permanent, that being alone doesn't mean being lost forever. This is why being found carries such emotional weight that goes far beyond simply losing a round of a game. The discovery isn't just the end of that particular hiding attempt. It's relief flooding through a child's system. It's reconnection with the social world they temporarily left. It's confirmation that they still exist, that they still matter, that someone was actively searching for them and cared enough to find them. Being found means being valued. It means your absence was noticed. It means you weren't forgotten. Children who hide and are never found, who wait in their spots while the game moves on without them, experience genuine psychological distress that can seem disproportionate to adults who don't understand what's really happening. These children will wait in dark closets or cramped spaces for unreasonable amounts of time, growing increasingly anxious, but unwilling to reveal themselves because that would mean admitting they weren't found, that the game abandoned them, that their presence or absence made no difference to anyone. When they finally emerge, they're often upset in ways that seem excessive, but it's not about losing the game. It's about the terror that they actually did disappear, that they removed themselves so completely from existence that no one remembers they're gone, that they could die in that hiding spot and no one would come looking. The game balances terror with reassurance in a way that mirrors how humans process fear throughout their entire lives. We seek out controlled fear experiences because they teach us we can survive fear. Horror movies trigger the fight or flight response while we sit safely in theater seats. Roller coasters simulate mortal danger while keeping us strapped in secure. Scary stories around campfires activate ancient dread of darkness and predators while we're surrounded by friends in a safe space. These all serve the same fundamental purpose. They trigger genuine fear responses in contexts where we know on some level that we're ultimately safe. This lets us practice feeling afraid without the actual consequences of danger. Hide and seek does this for children. The fear of being caught is real. The footsteps approaching your hiding spot create real anxiety. Your heart races, your breathing quickens, you experience actual fear, but the consequences are safe. Being found doesn't mean death or injury. It just means the round ends and you switch roles. This pattern appears throughout human psychology. We need to rehearse fear to build resilience. Children who never experience controlled fear, who are protected from all anxiety, struggle more with real danger later in life. They haven't built the mental frameworks for managing terror, for functioning while afraid. Hide and seek provides this training disguised as entertainment. It teaches emotional regulation, stress management, fear control, all through a game that requires no equipment, no special location, nothing but children and the willingness to hide. And then something strange happened. In modern times, as internet culture began reshaping traditional games and folklore, hide and seek transformed again. A ritual emerged online called Hitori Kakurenbo, which translates to one-man hide and seek. This Japanese ritual game spread across forums and websites in the mid-2000s, becoming one of the most infamous modern supernatural games, similar to Bloody Mary or Ouija boards. But Hitori Kakurenbo fundamentally changes what hide and seek means. The game is no longer communal. You play alone. There are no other children. You're not hiding from a friend who's seeking. Instead, you prepare a doll, a stuffed animal that you hollow out and fill with rice and nail clippings. You name it, giving it identity. You stab it with a sharp object. Then you hide from this doll, which is supposedly animated by spirits you've invited through the ritual. The rules read like an occult ceremony, not a children's game. You must play at night, specifically starting at 3 a.m. You fill your bathtub with water. You carry salt water for protection. You hide in specific ways. And if you hear sounds, if the doll moves, if you encounter it while hiding, the consequences are supposedly real. People who claim to have played report genuine terror, supernatural experiences, objects moving, presence in their homes. Whether you believe these accounts or not, what's significant is what the game represents. The modern version has stripped away everything that made hide and seek safe. There's no community, there's no friends seeking you, there's no reassurance of being found. The seeker is explicitly supernatural, explicitly dangerous, explicitly something that wants to harm you. The game stops being about controlled fear and becomes about actual dread. And here's the remarkable part. This modern ritual represents a circular return to the game's oldest origins. Ancient hide and seek trained children for real predators, for actual danger, for life or death situations. It was survival rehearsal disguised as play. Over thousands of years, as human societies became safer, as predators were driven back, as civilization created protected spaces for childhood, the game became increasingly harmless, increasingly symbolic. The danger became pretend. But Hitori Kakurenbo brings it back. It reintroduces the concept that the seeker might be genuinely dangerous, that hiding might have real consequences, that the game could actually hurt you. Whether through supernatural forces or psychological terror or simple fear, the modern version returns hide and seek to its roots. It stops being safe. It stops being innocent. It becomes about surviving pursuit once again. This evolution reveals something important about why hide and seek never disappeared, why it survived for literally thousands of years while other games came and went. The game taps into something primal that lives in human psychology. The fear of being hunted, the need to hide from danger, the terror of pursuit. These fears are embedded so deep in human experience that no amount of civilization can erase them. We don't live in a world with saber-toothed cats anymore. We don't hide from raiding tribes. Most children will never need to conceal themselves from an actual predator, but the fear remains. It's genetic memory, evolutionary inheritance, psychological hardwiring that developed over hundreds of thousands of years and can't be undone in the few thousand years we've had relative safety. Hide and seek persists because it activates this primal fear in a controlled way. It lets children practice survival skills they hope they'll never need. It teaches them that they can manage fear, can think while terrified, can overcome the urge to panic and run. And it does all this through play, through an activity that requires no resources, no preparation, nothing but children and the understanding that one seeks while others hide. Every culture developed this game independently because every culture needed it. Children needed to learn how to hide. They needed to practice stillness. They needed to overcome fear. The game taught these lessons so effectively that it spread everywhere humans went, survived every cultural change, adapted to every new context while maintaining its essential core. One person seeks, everyone else hides. The fear is real, even when the danger is pretend. Hide and seek has never been fully sanitized. Parents don't worry about children playing it the way they worry about violent video games or inappropriate content. But the game teaches something dark. It teaches that sometimes the best survival strategy is to disappear, to remove yourself from sight, to hope that whatever is hunting you passes by without finding you. It teaches that safety sometimes means being completely alone in darkness, controlling your fear while danger searches. And maybe that's why it endures, because on some level, we know these lessons still matter. The world is different but not entirely safe. Danger takes new forms, but it still exists. And the child who learns to hide well, to stay calm under pressure, to think clearly while afraid, that child has an advantage. The same advantage their ancestors had 50,000 years ago when the game first began. So the next time you see children playing hide and seek, watch closely. They're not just playing, they're training, they're learning to survive. They're practicing skills that kept humanity alive for hundreds of thousands of years. And they're doing it the same way their ancestors did, through a game that teaches them what to do when something dangerous is looking for them. Hide, stay still, control your fear and hope you're not found.